With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
You said some things last podcast about Miami, and I think you made some Miami Hurricane fans upset, and I think you probably owe them an apology now.
I'm not going to apologize.
It's the arrival. I came in the league, went straight for the title.
He's got it! Jeremiah Smith!
The Michigan Wolverines shocked the college football world.
You know, some people gotta learn how to lose, man.
And after all that, it's Ohio State together at the mountaintop.
There's nothing quite like the game.
Michigan versus Ohio State.
This is The Rivalry. Proud to be part of the Varsity Network from Learfield and sponsored by Elevated Integrity Construction.
Well, despite the odds, the sun did in fact come up this morning.
Not for me.
We're not mad. We're just disappointed. Also, we might be a little bit mad. It's the Rivalry Podcast from River Radio Ministries, presented by Elevated Integrity Construction. It's Michigan and Ohio State, a college football podcast dedicated to the greatest rivalry in all of sports. My name is Jace. That's Mr. JP. Wherever you're on social media, we are too at Rival Pod. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening right now. Rate and review helps a lot as well. And if you want to support financially, get yourself some Rival Pod merch. I'm wearing the custom Rival Pod shirt from rivalpod.com. Go to rivalpod.com, just click on support. That helps the podcast as well. There is a ton to get to. We had a week off from the podcast over the holidays, and so it feels like it's been ages since we talked college football, because it has been a hot minute here.
It has been,
but
yeah.
also, I don't know about for you, and we'll get into the Michigan and Ohio State's respective games here coming up. It feels like 3 years since Michigan and Ohio State actually played each other.
It really does. I didn't think about that until you just said
and
that.
I don't know
it really does feel like, it feels like last year.
And
You're welcome for that.
I hate this. Never mind. I don't even know where
You're welcome for that.
I hate New Year, same dumb podcast. Let's start with a little bit of a wheel route. This is sponsored by our friends at the Ohio Sinus Institute. Probably the kind of hot topic to hit on across the college football landscape right now. Makes sense that it would be the transfer portal. So we are recording because time is so important here. This is Monday morning, January 5th. Okay. Everything we're about to say can change in about
probably already has
half an hour. I got to refresh the portal again.
Yeah, probably has.
So very early Monday morning, this is where things stand. But what's the transfer portal look like? And we can start with you, JP. What's it look like for your Ohio State Buckeyes right now?
Yeah, Ohio State has had a handful of guys already announced they're going into the transfer portal. Some that just aren't really surprising. Lincoln Keenholz being one of those guys that you just kind of knew going into the end of the year that he was gonna follow what Devin Brown ended up doing, transferring out, trying to find an opportunity to go play. He ends up committing to Louisville, so I'm really excited to actually watch where he goes. You had a couple of other guys that were big names coming out of high school that never really panned out. It didn't really surprise me. You had Sam Williams-Dixon. He was a 4-star running back coming out of a local Columbus school here. He tried to transfer at the end of last year, decided to come back, due partially to some of the interest that he was getting. There just wasn't a lot. I think that he thought his role would be able to come and be expanded upon. He would get some more playing time, and then he got beat out by Isaiah West, James Peoples, CJ Donaldson, and then obviously Bo Jackson.
He's like, what, 5?
Yeah, he was like 4 or 5. I think he played in one game this year against Grambling State. James Peoples, another guy that was supposed to be a starter coming into this year, split carries until Bo Jackson kind of emerged as running back 1. He's gone. Some of the bigger names to me, because there were just a ton. There were a ton of guys that hadn't really had a chance to play that you didn't really know. But one of the guys that I think was a huge loss, Mylan Graham. It surprised me, but I've kind of talked myself off of this hill a little bit.
And if you're not familiar, Mylan Graham, wide receiver, presumably going to step into a starting role next year, right?
100%. Yeah, supposed to. But this wide receiver room is still fine. You've got Jeremiah Smith. You have Brandon Ennis for another year.
Ain't nobody worried about Brandon Ennis.
Chris Henry Jr. is coming in.
We're worried about Henry Jr.
Quincy Porter is another guy to be looking out for. The wide receiver room is still not something that you should be questioning. Graham just would have been a nice addition to that. I think he would have been able to compete for that wide receiver 3 slot going in. Some of the biggest names that I think actually really hurt, and you didn't get to see a lot of them, but there were 2 guys in particular that I want to point out. Aaron Scott Jr. and Bryce West, both cornerbacks, both part of the secondary, both were 5-star recruits.
They were Springfield, right?
Yeah.
Out of Springfield High School. Cause I remember Springfield, if you're not familiar, is 45 minutes from Columbus, over near where I went to, did my undergrad, but also Michigan was targeting both of those guys, and it was kind of seen as like a package deal, and one was visiting over here and everyone was kind of holding their breath, and I can't remember who committed first, but one guy committed.
I think Aaron Scott committed
and then Bryce
first.
committed right after.
Yeah. And now both of them are in the portal. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if they went to the same school.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's one
Michigan
that hurts.
Michigan on line one. Yeah.
That's the one that I feel like will hurt this team the most. The secondary, you're going to be losing so many guys going into next year. Both of those guys, highly touted high schoolers. You had a lot of expectations for. Then there were some other guys. I mean, you had guys like Bryson Rogers. He had also tried to transfer at the end of last year, decided to come back. The biggest need for this team has been the offensive line, in my opinion. And you saw 2 guys leaving the portal. You had Tegra Shabola. I can never pronounce his name.
Shabola.
He actually ended up losing his starting spot towards the end of the year. Some of it due to just play. Some of it, I think he had some injury issues as well. Then you had Devontae Armstrong. What I think is interesting about him is that he actually has a twin brother that is on the team with Ohio State as well, that is an offensive lineman. I'm very curious what that looks like for him.
Yeah.
Because while losing one of them still isn't ideal, and they were local St. Edward's kids that really high recruits, both of them committed to Ohio State, were kind of looked at as the future pillars of that line. Now one of them's gone. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if the other brother decided to follow suit and stick around. And then probably the name that I think people are also going to be talking about, CJ Hicks. He was a defensive end. He was a 5-star recruit, never really truly lived up to that. I don't feel like he was given a ton of chances to really showcase that.
Sure.
You could see some of the raw potential that he brought. But those are some of the biggest names. I mean, none of them that I think immediately hurt, but definitely for the future, there's a lot of young guys I was really excited to see that are hitting the portal.
And somebody else had pointed this out, and I think this is a good reminder too. You know, for as much as and I wish I could remember who was that pointed this out. It's not rocket science in one sense, but for as much as we place effort on, you know, these 4-star, 5-star guys and who signs where and what. How many 4 or 5-star guys either don't crack the lineup or don't get the play time they're looking for, don't get the NIL that they're looking for, and transfer out? Yeah. Right. I mean,
well, and just with the way the college football landscape is now, I saw
because you can go into the portal and get a guy immediately.
Well, and I saw a stat, I think, and I'm not sure the exact number, but it was like over 4,000 students were in the transfer portal just in college football.
It's crazy.
Which it was insane to me. Just with the NIL money, I mean, you're seeing the effect of that hardcore. You saw it last year. You're seeing it again this year. Yeah. College football's changed.
Yeah.
If you're a 4 or 5-star recruit and you don't see immediate playing time in your future, you're going to go somewhere and you're going to leverage that 5-star, that 4-star recruiting level to get you a bag. And that's what's happening.
And by the way, I'm not even necessarily, while I do think there needs to be probably some better regulation around, I think everyone agrees that there needs some better regulation around NIL. The transfer portal window is a mess based on where the NCAA puts it. Which is why you've got guys like Hartline taking jobs, but trying to coach and trying to recruit and trying to sign. And
look at even some of the guys, some of the teams that are in the playoffs right now. I mean, you've got Kurt Signetti. Granted, dude's doing a phenomenal job of it.
My gosh.
He's going out there and trying to prep for a semifinal game while also trying to go out there and hit these portal guys while the window is open.
Well, he's doing
both.
He's doing
it, which is scary for not only the Big Ten, but the country.
Who's the kid from TCU? Josh Hoover. Josh Hoover, Nick Marsh.
Committed. Nick Marsh. When I saw Nick Marsh went, I thought, oh, this is for real. And then they got Turbo. I think it's Turbo Rogers. Picked him up as well.
I'm sitting here thinking, okay, Indiana's probably going to be decent next year, but how good will they really be? Because Michigan and Ohio State both play Indiana regular season next year. Michigan, I believe, gets them at home. I think Ohio State's in Bloomington.
It is in Bloomington.
And I thought, well, we'll see what Indiana looks like. Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
Folks, we'll get to Indiana later, but Indiana football is a problem.
I was wrong.
Indiana football is a problem. So for the portal in general, and then I'll look at Michigan here. You know, you and I were talking about this over the weekend as well. And again, recording this Monday morning just for context, but you and I were talking about this over the weekend. Anytime it's like fans forget the way that the portal works, right? Like the portal giveth and the portal taketh away. Blessed be the name of the portal, right? Is that sacrilegious?
So
Can I say that?
As it is written, so it shall be.
Stats are stats, man. But what people will just look at sometimes sheer numbers of players transferring and they'll freak out, or they'll point the finger and be like, oh, it's rats on a sinking ship. Oh, look at this mass exodus from my rival's team. But then if it's your team, it's, well, we didn't need him anyway. You know, it's just, it's wild how that works. It has nothing to do. This should go without saying, but it feels like it needs to be said because I've been on Twitter. The sheer number of players leaving a program does not necessarily correlate to there's a big problem at this school. Where it gets difficult is I look at, is this guy a guy who was going to continue being a starter, or was this guy about to be a major contributor?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, so here's a good example, right? Jasper Parker for Michigan is in the portal. Talented running back. Think he's really good. Jasper Parker is about 4th or 5th on the depth chart though. He saw some play time because of some injuries Michigan had, but even with Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall going down, it was Bryson Cusdahl, and then it was Micah Kapana, and then it was Jasper Parker. And so even in that situation, Parker's not getting significant play time. So even if he's talented and you go, man, we're going to hurt because we need the depth. Yes, you need the depth, but also look at Michigan's running back room. Look at, presumably, knock on wood.
Yeah,
presumably Jordan Marshall, presumably coming back in. Savion Hyder, 5-star running back, top running back in the class, is joining the team. It makes sense that Jasper Parker's going to transfer. There are so many guys like that. You listed some for Ohio State.
I would throw Mylan Graham in that.
So many guys like that. Mylan Graham, I don't know, because here's where I would say it does get concerning is if you were going to be a starter. If you were a starter or were about to be a starter and a significant contributing factor, that's where it gets a little bit more dicey. So for Michigan, there's a handful of those guys. Cole Sullivan would be near the top, if not number one for me. So Cole Sullivan in line for a starting linebacker role, played a lot at linebacker this year. Michigan, for many reasons, losing Ernest Hausman next year, is going to be losing. I'm sorry, my brain is blinking. Jayshawn Barham. I'm not sure what Jimmy Rolder's looking at yet, but Cole Sullivan's going to be a major factor on that team in 2026 if he stays. So him being in the portal is a huge loss for Michigan. Now, they are saying that he is evaluating options and there is a great chance that he could come back. He just kind of wants to see what's out there. That's also very fair given Michigan's coaching turnover right now. The linebacker coach is changing, head coach has changed, defensive coordinator's changing. All that contributes, but Cole Sullivan is a guy that I am concerned with losing. Samaj Morgan is not. and by the way, I love Samaj. He had a great freshman year, was a disappointing sophomore season, hoped his junior year was going to be the breakout, never materialized, had a really rough time. I hope he goes and balls out somewhere, but he was not going to be a contributing factor on this football team moving forward. Zeke Berry was a surprise to me. Zeke Berry is a guy that I think Michigan needs to keep. Was he outstanding? No, but you saw the potential and you saw some of the talent. And while Michigan has a lot of young guys behind him that I feel very confident in, you want some of those veteran guys to still be there. So it's not that massive quick change turnover. The other ones that I'd mentioned for Michigan as of right now that really surprised me and that maybe outside of Sullivan are the most concerning to me, Andrew Sprague and Jake Guarnera. So Michigan notably had this very young offense this year, right? And this is no surprise if you've been around the podcast. Bryce Underwood, obviously. Jordan, freshmen or sophomores all over this team. But Bryce Underwood, Jordan Marshall, Andrew Marsh, Jake Guarnera, Andrew Sprague. Like you've got, and I'm missing a guy too on the offense. There were 3 starting offensive linemen who were all freshmen or at least underclassmen. Sprague and Guarnera were two of them. Guarnera was going to move into the center role next year. And I liked a lot of what I saw from Andrew Sprague. Now both of them are in the portal. So what went from this offensive line is really young, but we're starting to come together well. Mm-hmm. Now you get to make that sophomore year jump, which freshman to sophomore year is probably the biggest jump you're going to make. Michigan's look at the offensive line going, okay, we're getting back to our roots. We're going to have this experienced line. And now you've got some holes in it. That to me is actually a fairly concerning thing. And it makes sense because, again, for everything around it, I mean, Sharon Moore's calling card was supposed to be offensive line. I mean, that's what he played at Oklahoma. That's where he was at Michigan before he moved into some other roles. And so when you lose your head coach, who that was a specialty, you lose your position coach, it makes sense you're going to have guys hit the portal. That doesn't mean everything is on fire and Michigan's going to be terrible or anything like that, but it does mean those are the ones that you can look at and go, that's a significant concern here.
Yeah, 100%. So looking into the transfer portal on the opposite end of things, I don't know how well you've kept up with any of the potential targets, any guys that Michigan's looking at getting. I know there are a couple of names going around for the Ohio State side of things. Some of them were even speculations prior to the season ending. Some of the biggest names, you have Rasheem Biles, the linebacker from Pittsburgh. He is supposedly maybe even on a visit today.
I was going to say it was coming soon.
I think it was today. He was supposed to be in Columbus. And then you had Chaz Coleman, the defensive end from Penn State. People were talking about him after the Penn State-Ohio State game this season. He's another guy that was heavily recruited by Ohio State. Ohio State barely missed out on him. He's in the transfer portal. And then there's the guy, I'm blanking on his name. He's a safety from Minnesota.
Boy Parrish?
Yes. He is a guy.
Stay away from him.
He's a guy.
He's really good.
He is a guy that has been really good for the Golden Gophers, that has been linked to Ohio State.
Absolutely not.
Those have been the three biggest targets. I know they've already picked up a commitment from a tight end from Ohio. I'm blanking on his name as well. And then a long snapper. So those are the two commitments we currently have. And those are probably the three biggest names that I've seen.
Yeah, that's good.
Other than that, it's been relatively quiet, but that doesn't mean it's not happening.
It's still relatively early too, right? I mean, they've got until, I believe, through the end of the 12th. So that would be next Monday to announce. And I even remember, when CJ Stroud was trying to, and the question for him wasn't about the portal. It was the NFL decision, but he waited till the last day. For Michigan, and I'm going to make sure I give credit here. Mason Brew, Vaughn Lawson over at Mason Brew. Fantastic. And so here's his portal recap of some names to monitor. One of these is probably the most important, a Utah edge rusher that has been highly linked to Michigan, John Henry Daly, supposed to be a phenomenal edge player. Michigan needs those guys to come in because you are losing guys like Derek Moore. He also mentions NC State wide receiver Terrell Anderson, and there's a couple other guys in there as well. But John Henry Daly has been the name that I've seen the most linked in. And again, this is not an X's and O's recruiting podcast. There are other places for that. Go to those places.
We've already probably missed 7 or 8 different names in this short little time we've been recording.
And my guess is that I was going to say the portal has probably shifted. Yeah. Let's talk about some actual on the field football though, because what a New Year's Eve I had. Let me tell you.
But for probably different reasons.
The afternoon was horrible, and we'll get to that. But let's start with the college football playoff game. Ohio State and Miami. Miami wins this game 24-14.
24-14, yeah.
You said some things last podcast about Miami, and I think you made some Miami Hurricane fans upset. And I think you probably owe them an apology now.
I'm not going to apologize.
This is why, again, no one likes Ohio State.
Here's what I think I need to do, and I'm gonna press
you owe them an apology. You owe Indiana one later.
I will give Indiana an apology. I will not give Miami an apology, and here's why. Okay. I should have clarified more with my statement because I'm assuming you're referring to me comparing them to Penn State.
I'm referring to most of the things that you said about them. But yes, that in particular.
So here's where I should have clarified more on why I made that comparison. Miami is a team, much like, and I think a lot of people thought I meant this year's Penn State team. And you understood what I meant, so that's why I didn't clarify it. I'm talking about that program as a whole in recent years. Miami and Penn State were similar to me for this reason. They were always a team that had really high expectations by their fan base that they routinely fell short of. They were always a team that was supposed to win their conference, that they were supposed to be the number one team coming out of it and competing for the ACC or the Big Ten championship. And every single year they failed to do it. They were a team that always was bringing in this highly touted, highly recruited, high-level quarterback, and they would always have a really strong run game, and they'd have a really strong defense. And it just wouldn't seem to matter at the end of the day. Something along the way would happen. And prior to their playoff run, this was a Miami team that was following that same script. They had a Carson Beck who looked really good at times, but also had games where he looked like Drew Aller. And he threw numerous picks and just didn't look like a top-level quarterback in the country. Mark Fletcher Jr. reminded me a lot of a Katron Allen, Nick Singleton. He was always going to be dangerous. He was always going to be consistent. And then you looked at that defense, and you thought that defense is going to be what helps get them in every single game that they play. But then you watch that same team go out there and lose to an SMU and lose to a Louisville. Much like a Penn State goes out there and this season loses to a UCLA, loses to I forget who else because they lost like 6 in a row.
They lost many games.
But I'm talking even in years past. They would go into these games where you would expect them to perform better and they would fall short. Prior to this Ohio State game, that narrative in my mind was true. Whether you're a Miami Hurricane fan and want to admit it or not, it was true. You have not won the ACC since you've joined. You haven't been in a relevant football game until this past New Year's Eve for years, probably since the last time you played Ohio State. You hadn't been in the college football playoffs once. So what the level of hate that I was getting based off of my comparison, tell me where the lie is on any of that prior to the Ohio State game. What have they won? It's the same narrative that I played with Indiana. Until they prove it, you're not getting the respect from me. You have to go out there and you have to prove it. And Miami did. And so I'll give them credit. The defense was phenomenal. They wanted it more. They deserved that win. And spoiler alert, I'm going to pick them to beat Ole Miss.
Okay, wow.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that more. So I don't want this to be some negative thing, but I felt like I needed to clarify more on that because our comment section was making it seem like I was so far off base. But nothing that I just told you is a lie.
No, I mean, I think that clarity is good because I don't disagree with it. Obviously, I disagree. I didn't disagree with your pick because I picked Ohio State to beat Miami as well. Let me put it this way. I touted the consistency, not doubted, I touted the consistency of Ohio State and I questioned Miami's heading into the game. And that could not have been further from the truth. Miami showed incredible balance on both sides of the football. I mean, it wasn't rocket science to say that, okay, in order to beat Ohio State, Miami's going to have to get the type of pressure on Julian Sayin that Indiana did. And I gave what is, again, just still a wild sentence to say in college football, which is I said Miami is not Indiana, and I doubted their ability to do it. My goodness.
Mm-hmm. Philip Daniels was getting his lunch taken from him every single snap by Ruben Bain. I mean, it was just incredibly easy. And I want to talk more about the actual game here because I wanted to clarify that because I saw that a lot in our comment section. And I wanted to clarify that I was not talking about the Penn State team from this season that was a dumpster fire. I'm talking about
talented teams that have
underachieved, and I think that's fair. Their identity has been the same. You have an above average quarterback. You have an above average coach. You have a really strong running game. You have an elite defense, and you just somehow never get it done. You never win your conference. You never play in meaningful games until this season. All of those stats are stats. Those are all factual. Stats are stats. Those are all factual. When it came to this game, though, as much as Miami deserved to win this, I do think there were a lot of factors that helped play into the team that we saw from the Buckeyes. And we've talked about this on the podcast before, and I don't want this to say that this is the main reason because I think Miami played a lot.
Miami was flat out a better team.
Yeah, Miami played a lot into this. There's no question. And I'm going to ramble a lot because there are a lot of different thoughts I have on this, but I do think one of the biggest dominoes for this season for Ohio State was the timing of Brian Hartline's departure. I think that played a bigger factor than people that aren't Ohio State fans care to admit, but take any offensive coordinator, have him leave right before the biggest games of the season against Indiana and against Miami, have him leave where his focus is now on a new team. And he's also trying to gear up for a transfer portal that's going to open the day after his biggest game. And now all of a sudden your head coach, who's not had to worry about play calling duties or anything like that, all of a sudden has to take that onto his plate. And then you're surprised that the offense comes out a little bit slow. And I think Miami's defense played a heck of a lot into that. But I also think that there were just some uncharacteristic things, regardless of whether you are trying to run the same offense. Having two different guys that are calling the plays that have different ideas on what you should do in different situations absolutely makes an impact on the game.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a huge domino effect. I also think one of the things that was Ohio State's biggest strength throughout the season turned out to be their biggest weakness in this game, which was their efficiency. And that sounds crazy to say, but Ohio State was so used to playing with the lead that they could play a little bit slower pace. They could go and score a touchdown and take 6 or 7 minutes off the clock and not have to rush anything. And it would work out because they were never really in danger. But when you go down 14-0 early off a very telegraphed pick six.
Beautiful read. Beautiful read.
I want to give credit where credit's due. Heck of a play by the secondary.
Kid had been in the film room.
Yeah. Heck of a play. But also, when I see Ohio State line 3 wide receivers up on the left side, one trailing back a little bit, and then I see them send a tight end motion to that same side, I wonder what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I'm not an X's and O's guy at all. I could have jumped.
You don't need Connor Stallions with grainy iPhone footage to telegraph that one.
100%. It was the most telegraphed play call I think I've ever seen. And so hats off to the defense. You still have to time that the way he did. You still have to be able to read that on the field. It's easy for us to see it on the field when we get the whole landscape
the way
of it.
I yelled
but
when he picked that off, because, you're just, as a fan, I'm just kind of, I'm hate watching, obviously.
For sure.
I'm just kind of watching. I'm like, they're going to go down and score here. And all of a sudden, like your eyes kind of shake a little bit and the guy's going the other way.
Yeah.
It was
awesome. And returns it back. Here, what I think is interesting is I feel like the narrative for this game was that it was a super lopsided game from Miami, that they were just blowing the doors off of Ohio State. I don't think that narrative is true.
No,
I think
but also, 24-14, like, no, nobody blew the doors off anybody else, but it was also, and it was surprising to me, but like it was just clear, like Miami was flat out better.
Yeah, I think on
every side of the ball.
To me, there were certain points in that game where you could just tell, those moments in games where you can just tell a game is going to go a specific way. The pick six was one of those moments.
Yep.
Another moment for me was when Ohio State missed a field goal to end the half.
The most obvious miss of all time.
I knew it was going to happen before they even got to the fourth down.
Jaden Fielding knew it was going to happen before he kicked it.
Yeah, every person knew.
Jaden Fielding is my favorite Ohio State kicker of all time.
Even the way that they were play calling on that drive to set it up for a field goal told me we were going to miss that. Yeah. One of the things that I wrote down that I thought was a huge factor in this, Ohio State went 3 of 10 on third down. Miami was 7 of 14. Huge. It felt like, and I don't even think I was wrong on this part for my criticism a little bit of Carson Beck. I didn't feel like Carson Beck or the Miami offense is what won this game. I don't think that they were this like powerhouse. I thought they made plays when they needed to make plays. There was a time, and it ultimately resulted in a punt, but it helped extend the drive and kill a little bit more time. There was a 3rd and 11 play where Carson Beck ran for it for 11 yards. That just can't happen. If you're as highly touted of a defense as Ohio State, you can't allow a guy like that to pick up a 3rd and 11 when you need the ball back down 17-14.
Yeah. And that's where I do think, when we talk about stats or stats, like 100%, I'm going to disagree with you strongly there. But by no means did neither offense dominated this game. No one can look at that and go, Miami dominated the Ohio State defense. But Miami was extremely efficient with the football. I mean, they gained 300 yards on Ohio State. 138 passing, 153 rushing for 291. And you're exactly right. On those third down conversions, I'd have to go back and look at a
lot of them were 3rd and shorts.
Well, and I'd have to go back and look at the final drive too. But like the number of times Ohio State had an opportunity to get off the field and Carson Beck or whoever just would not let them do it. They continue to execute very, very well. So when you look at Beck, 19 of 26, 138 and a touchdown. Efficient, careful, critical situations. That's the ball game.
See, but I feel like you saying that is the same criticism you gave to Julian Saint against Texas, where you refused to say that he had a good game because he was efficient. To me, Carson Beck did what he needed to do to win the game. He could rely on he did exactly what Julian Sayin had done in those games, where he had gone and he took care of the ball. He made plays when he needed to. He found his playmakers and let them do their thing. They had a strong running game going, and he relied on his defense to help them get it done. And to me, I'm looking at this, and one of the biggest drives happened towards the end of the game. It's a 17-14 game. Ohio State gets the ball back. They force a punt. All the momentum. And I think you would even admit to this. At that moment, I think everybody thought, okay, Ohio State's going to pull away here.
I texted my brother and said, well, that was fun while it lasted.
Yes. They had all the momentum. And then guess what they do on that possession? 7 plays for 6 yards. They had 3 penalties on that one drive alone that put Julian Sayin in a 3rd and 20, which is the easiest thing to defend because they were already pushed back into their deep into their zone because of the penalties, where instead of being up near midfield where they should have been, they were now pushed back. It was 3rd and 20. All you have to really do there is play prevent defense because Ryan Day, you've seen him coach in that circumstance.
Yep.
You know he's not going to go for it on 4th down. You know you're going to get the ball back. So you can play off coverage and you can go and let them pick up 14, 15 yards and not worry about it. So you immediately took your chances. Then you rely on the Ohio State defense that has been the best in the nation all season long, and they just flat out can't get it done. To Miami's credit, they go down there. I think it was a 10-play, 70-yard drive, ends in a touchdown, and took 5 minutes off the clock.
Yep. Ball game. You had all the momentum. You had all the chances. The penalties killed you once again. And I think the play style that Ohio State showed all season long killed them. Both of their touchdown drives were lengthy drives, 11 plays, 82 yards, almost 7 minutes off the clock. The next one, 10 plays, 75 yards, 4.5 minutes off the clock. There had never seemed to be any sense of urgency all game long. And I think that ultimately killed them. The thing that frustrated me the most with this game wasn't even that we lost, because that sucked. But what killed me the most was seeing this Ohio State fan base turn on people on the program that I felt like did the best they could. And that's not me giving out some participation trophy, but I saw a ton of hate that night about Julian Sayin, about how next season Ryan Day's got to do something. He's got to put St. Clair in. He's got to find a QB in the portal. Julian Sayin cannot be QB1 to start the year next season. And I just thought that is the most insane, and I am king of insane takes. That is correct.
I think that is the most insane take that I've heard.
That is emotional trash.
And that's all I've seen from this Ohio State fan base.
Because they are the worst fan base in the country.
At times, for sure.
Always.
At times, for sure. I will stand by that, because to me, Julian Sayin played a decent game. His 2 picks, one was a pick 6 that was bad. The other one was at the very, very end of the game when he's trying to make something out of nothing. The game was basically already in hand. It's a whatever, toss-out stat. I thought he was fine when he had time, but I think
he just didn't have time.
I think a good chunk of that quarterback, and you can talk about how he handled pressure and what he does with it. I think it's very rare that you find a quarterback that can handle that kind of pressure that he was getting.
Well, Bain and Mesidor lived in the backfield. That offensive line was
trash.
That's what
I'm saying. As awful as it is to watch him go and run backwards on a couple of those drives and take 7-9 yard sacks or whatever. But what else can you do when you're not getting pressure? You're. But I mean, if you don't even have the time, I mean, it's not like the pocket was getting collapsed after a couple seconds. I mean, it was Phillip Daniels getting beat on the edge immediately.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you could tell that everything sped up for Sayin, and he started making mistakes where he was taking sacks he shouldn't. He did not play. It wasn't horrible, but he certainly, I wouldn't look at that and go, yeah, he played well by any stretch. He was fine.
I think he played as well as he could have given the circumstances. I think any quarterback
the pressure limited him, but I would say that's where it's like, no, I don't think you can look at that game and go, oh yeah, he played well. No, he played fine. And whether that's the clock speeding up for him because of the pressure, whether that's him missing on across the board, again, this is one of those things where there's no Ohio State fan that can honestly look at that game and go, because here's what usually happens. Listen, Michigan's won 4 out of the last 5 years against Ohio State. So I've watched this happen where Ohio State never loses to a team. They all beat themselves, or the refs beat them, or Connor Stallions beat them, even though he's not there. And no one ever beats Ohio State. This is one where I genuinely think that every Ohio State fan, if you're being honest, looks at it and goes, we got beat. Miami was better, and that was the story of the game.
Well, and here's the thing, and I told you I wanted to talk about a culture standard that I noticed after this game, because I saw the fan base going crazy over Julian, saying now all of a sudden everybody's turning on Ryan Day again and talking about how he can't recruit because we're losing these guys to the portal and we're bringing in these different coaches for these different positions and blah, 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 XYZ thing. We lost this game. Let's not forget that Miami was also talked about as being a national championship favorite prior to their losses to Louisville and SMU. People talked about this team as being one of the most loaded rosters in the nation. But one thing that I saw that really just it enraged me after this game, and it sucked because it came from one of my favorite players on the team. But after the game, in a press conference, Caden Curry, defensive end for Ohio State, guy that's going to probably be a top pick in the draft this upcoming season, gets on stage and is quoted by saying something along the lines of, we know that if we played those games 9 other times, we know what the outcome of those 9 games would be. Basically implying this was the 1 out of 10 that they got.
And that's exactly the type of stuff I'm talking about, where Ohio State is always, well, we're always this until you're not.
Yeah. And that, to me, if I'm a coach in that, needs corrected immediately.
Who was it? Do you remember?
It was Caden Curry.
It was Caden Curry.
Yeah, Caden Curry. Caden Curry got up there, and I don't remember the exact quote. You'll have to look it up, but it was something along the lines of that. Of, we know if we played this game 9 other times, we know what those outcomes would be.
Which, by the way, it's not like Jeremiah Smith is saying that, who had a great game. Caden Curry was MIA.
He was all right.
No pun intended for Miami, but like it was the JTT in any game except Penn State. It was like Caden Curry was not a factor in that game.
He was okay. He was okay. He wasn't it's hard because you're comparing the performance
of all the guys just stand up and say something stupid like that.
See, I don't want to hear it from anybody. If you're on the losing side of it.
I'm saying of anybody, he's one of the last people that should be saying something after a loss like that.
I heard that and I can't even explain how much rage filled me, because to me, that's the issue. You want to look at the difference between those teams, that attitude.
Yeah.
And there it is. That's the ball. If I would have heard any of that prior, I would have told you Miami is going to blow the doors off of.
Well, and this is not as bad, but I mean, guys are gonna trash talk, and I get that, and you usually have more stomach for that than I do, right? Mm-hmm. But it's you get 100 different things in the off season, or you get Bryce Underwood, they've never seen a freshman like me, or you get Jeremiah Smith talking about, Miami's still talking about that title. We got something coming for him on New Year's Eve. Like, you're going to get stuff like that. Guys say stuff, whatever. Saying something like that coming out of a game is different.
Not even in a game where, like, Ohio State had their chances. But it wasn't a game that you were really in.
Like, it was a tight game, but you got beat by a better team.
You got beat by a team that wanted it more.
Yep.
And you got out hustled. That at the end of the day, that's what it is.
Exactly right.
You might be the more talented team on paper.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter when you touch the field. It doesn't matter. Ohio State loses. Credit to Miami. Miami's a tough team. I hope that they go far. I genuinely do.
We'll get to those final 4 here in just a second. Now, maybe you do come out of the New Year's weekend and the holidays feeling a little bit like Ryan Day in Ohio State. You're trying to build like a champion, but you might not know how to execute it. Aaron and the team at Elevated Integrity Construction have a winning pedigree and a team of All-Americans. They are a juggernaut of the industry with a dynasty of championship builders. If you have a home, church, or business build, go with the folks with integrity in their name at elevatedintegrity.com. The Rivalry also proud members, once again, of the Varsity Network, powered by Learfield. Varsity Network is the must-have app if you call yourself a college football fan, which hopefully you do if you're here on this podcast. Live broadcasts, on-demand podcasts like this one, free to download when you find the Varsity Network in the App Store, and be sure to search for the Rivalry Podcast. We also want to say thanks to some new friends at the Ohio Sinus Institute. You deserve better sinus care. Get relief from the most experienced sinus specialist in Central Ohio, Dr. Boris Karanfilov. Surgeon-led, personalized care, over 20 years of experience, minimally invasive procedures, in-office treatments, and on-site CT imaging for quicker, better answers from the Ohio Sinus Institute. And finally, the Rivalry Podcast, proud to partner with our friends at Homage this year. So much fun to be partners with these guys. Since 2007, Homage has helped fans pay homage to the people, places, teams, and moments that matter most to them. And by the way, that goes whether you're an Ohio fan or a Michigan guy. They've got stuff for everybody. Quality craftsmanship, elite storytelling, and trademarked legendary comfort can confirm. If you click on the link in the podcast description below, not only can you get yourself something nice, coziest crew neck or jacket.
I got a couple for Christmas.
T-shirts, hats, whatever. Not only will you get yourself something great, but you will also support the podcast when you do it through that link. And as a reminder, you can also get your own custom Rival Pod merch. We've got Michigan and Ohio State. I'm wearing the Michigan one right now. We might have a graphic we can put on the screen. Either way, rivalpod.com. Click on support. Get yourself a t-shirt there. That money helps the podcast. We're a very small budget podcast, so everything helps. If that's not in the wheelhouse for you, no worries. Thank you for listening. Please follow @RivalPod and be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. That makes a huge difference. By the way, over the holidays, we surpassed the parent channel for subscribers. It's awesome. Thank you.
This season has been incredible. And make sure to share this with a friend, too. Maybe you've got a friend that's a Michigan State fan that you'd like to remind that they have not made a bowl game in what feels like eons. So it's a beautiful time to be here. And they lost. They're going to lose their two best players. It's just
fantastic.
Something we can all agree on. But can you finally agree with me on something?
No, I don't want to talk about this. I mean, we have to. It's on the sheet.
I said it a long time ago, and you gave me a ton of crap for it.
Yeah, I did.
Arch Manning is a better quarterback than Bryce Underwood, confirmed.
Right now? Yeah.
That's what I was saying back in the day.
Okay, but here's what I said. Here's the difference.
Months ago.
Correct. Months ago.
He was better then.
No, he wasn't.
Infinitely better then.
When we talked about is Bryce Underwood better than Arch Manning? We had just come off. I don't remember which game, but we were in that like Central Michigan, Nebraska performance where Bryce looked really good in both games.
Who wouldn't against Central Michigan?
Okay. And Nebraska also. Thank you.
Who wouldn't look good
Cincinnati.
against Nebraska?
Brendan Sorsby, the hottest quarterback commodity in the country.
What world do we live in?
I know,
I saw he was going to make like $5 million in NIL. That's insane to me.
Anyway, when we talked about who was better at that point, Bryce did look like a better quarterback than Arch.
No.
And so what you did was you then held me to that. After we got more and more.
You stood on that hill up until this game.
I stood on the hill of when you asked me that. The Jair Hill. We are so derailed right now. Much like Michigan's offense against Texas. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any question that right now, at the end of the season, looking at that Arch is at a better place than Bryce is. I don't think there's much question about that. I don't even think it's close. Here's what's going to help Bryce, and then we'll talk about the actual Texas game. What's going to help Bryce is Michigan's got so much coaching turnover, and that is actually, I think, a very good thing for him. Apparently, I didn't realize this, so Chip Lindsey was the OC. He was also serving as quarterback's coach. I guess I should have, because it's right there on face value. Michigan did not have a dedicated quarterback coach in 2025. How you don't have a dedicated quarterback coach, bringing in a guy like Bryce Underwood, makes no sense. But then again, neither does anything about Sharon Moore's tenure at Michigan at this point. So Michigan bring in a dedicated quarterback coach is going to be a really, really good thing for Bryce's development. Obviously getting a new offensive coordinator can help, blah, blah, blah. I think there's no doubt that Bryce is an extremely talented quarterback. Obviously, that freshman to sophomore jump is going to be really big to see what does that look like on the field in 26. There's obviously questions about, is he going to stay? Is he going to portal? I don't expect him to go anywhere, but of course that's a possibility. It's a possibility for any player on any roster in the country. But I think Michigan having Coy Detmer as the quarterback's coach is going to be really, really beneficial for Bryce. And it'll be interesting to see what that development looks like heading into next season. So there's that for you. Michigan, Texas. I thought that for most of the game, Michigan actually played very well with Texas. I said at halftime when they were tied at 17, both teams were probably in the locker room feeling like we should be up. Like these teams looked so similar to each other for almost 3.5 quarters. And then you had, I don't remember if it was exactly an exact 3-play sequence, but it was essentially a 3-play sequence, right? Where Texas scores a touchdown, takes the lead back from Michigan in the fourth quarter. Bryce then throws a pick, And I believe it was the very next play. Wink forgot to spy Arch. And Arch
just a 60-yard touchdown. Yeah.
Just gone. Nobody around him. If I remember right, I think they came back from commercial break and everyone's, you're kind of settling back in after the commercial break. Like, all right, let's get back into the game. Let's see what the down distance is. Where are they on the field? You're kind of getting your bearings again. And boom, while I'm doing that, Arch is like at the 20.
Mm-hmm.
Defense was very optional in this game, really, for both teams for much of this game.
I mean, I think giving up 41 says that.
It's not great. It's not great.
Not a deal.
I'm also not sure that, Texas's defense got the turnovers near the end, but I'm also not sure Texas is real happy with how their defense played for most of that game either. It's in one sense, it's a tough pill to swallow at the end of the year for Michigan. You would have loved to have gone to that 10-win mark. Obviously, you want to win your bowl game. I don't know that anybody is surprised that Texas beat Michigan. I picked Michigan to win it. I thought that they would win a lower scoring game. They did not.
They did not. Close.
And really, going back to Bryce, I mean, he was responsible for 3 touchdowns in this game. He was also responsible for 3 interceptions. That's the beauty. And I've said this a couple times this year. That is the beauty and pain of starting a true freshman quarterback. I still, who knows? I still don't know if Michigan intended for him to start this season. I said back in spring ball, really back when it might have been even before that. It was before the Mikey Keene injury. I had said, I expect that even with Mikey Keene in there, whoever else they bring in, I expected Bryce to start the season. I don't know if that was Michigan's plan. You got the feeling that Mikey Keene was brought in to be the guy. I was on the opposite
side of that. I thought Keene was going to be the go-to guy until the injury.
Because you didn't want to have to ride the roller coaster quite yet. Mm-hmm. Given everything, you did, and you saw the ups and the downs, and you saw you saw some phenomenal performances against you saw phenomenal performances against Nebraska, against Washington, and then you also saw the games against Oklahoma. You saw the games against Ohio State and Texas, and so you got that up and down season. What I don't think is fair. I think it's fair to look at it and go, yeah, this is not the best season, not a great season from him overall. What I don't think is fair is I don't think it's fair to project that into he's trash. He's always going to be trash. Nothing's good is going to happen, which is where Ohio State fans are at.
I'll project it all over.
I know you will.
I won't really. I actually have some good things to say.
He's an incredibly talented quarterback. I hope he stays at Michigan because I think this team is building around him. It's not just going to solely rely on him. Michigan's still going to be a run-first team. Whittingham's teams are ground and pound run-first teams. But he's also had quarterbacks who can move, who are mobile. He's had an offensive coordinator who uses a quarterback's legs. What a phenomenal, revolutionary thought to unleash the kid and let him go run the ball, to actually not just scramble, but to call a run play. You can do that now in college football. It's amazing. Bryce is going to be fine. Bryce is going to be just fine.
Yeah, I think I'm going to surprise you because as much as I've given him a ton of flack all season long.
And by the way, just so we're clear, he deserves some of that. He absolutely deserves some of that.
I would still stand on the hill that everything I've said, the Jair Hill, I would still stand on that everything I've said about him has been accurate.
I don't know about everything.
I think everything I've said has been accurate.
We broad strokes agree on a lot of this. We'll put it that way.
Where I will give him credit in this game, as ugly as I thought it was at times. I mean, 3 interceptions is never good, and they were bad throws.
Correct. And again, I think you could argue that one, kind of like the Julian Sayin thing.
The very last one, sure.
1 or 2 of them, you could probably go, it's desperation mode.
The very last one, I think I would. But the other 2, I think, were just bad throws.
Sure, and that's fine. Yeah.
I actually thought how they utilized him in this game needs to be what they do with him going forward, where they utilized him more in the run game. He had 14 carries, 69 yards, and a touchdown. I think some of the passing stuff that you saw from him will get cleaned up having a dedicated quarterback coach.
Absolutely.
Because I think, and I guess I've never seen it as glaringly obvious as I had in this game, his footwork is just atrocious. It's
not good.
There were a handful, and if you go back and watch the tape, even some of the interceptions, it's like the guy is playing baseball when he throws it. I mean, he's going and his leg is kicking up and he's not planting his foot. He's throwing off his back leg. I mean, I'm not a quarterback coach by any means, as you can probably tell. I know that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's those fundamentals that and I've said this all season long, it's the fundamentals that you expect at the beginning of the season because he's fresh out of high school, thrown into the starting job. You expect those. What worries me and doesn't really worry me as an Ohio State fan because I'll gladly take it. Yeah. But if I'm a Michigan fan, what worries me is that those mistakes are almost seemingly getting worse as the season goes on. I don't feel like I saw that.
Progress.
I didn't see any progress. I feel like the same guy that I saw at the beginning of the year is the same guy I saw at the end of the year.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you at all on that because you saw even early on, even in the opening game, you saw the flashes of talent. And we've continued to see that talent throughout the year. You also have obviously seen kind of the flip side of having a star freshman quarterback, which is it's the roller coaster, right? You buckle up and hang on. But it's weird. And again, it's not all on this, but you also look back now and go, well, gee, why may we not have seen progress? Sherrone had no control of the locker room. Mm-hmm. Obviously, interpersonally, just terrible. Just bad stuff all around. From inside the football facility, no control of the locker room. Terrible. It sounds like terrible interactions with his own coaches. Michigan doesn't have a dedicated quarterbacks coach. So you got Chip Lindsey, who's fresh into the system, probably looking around going, what in the world is happening here? Who is also calling the offense and is not solely focused on working with Bryce. Maybe we shouldn't be shocked. And I'm not saying that's all of it, but especially for a kid that just turned 18, maybe stepping into that environment where the adults in the room around you are not doing what they should be doing and are not focused on helping you develop. Yeah, maybe there's a reason we haven't seen the progress.
Well, and even just from an organization standpoint, when you're investing that much money into a guy like Bryce, why would one of your priorities not to be getting a guy that can help develop this huge investment you just made? You just locked up $10 to $12 million of your future into this kid to come there and be a leader and be a Heisman and a guy that can get you a national championship, and then you don't get any funds or any sort of personnel to help develop that. Makes zero sense to me. Yeah. And as much as I've given him a ton of flack all season long, I feel like I've also been fair by saying that despite all of that, I've seen the talent and you can see it there. If he can find somebody that can actually work with him and can get some of those bad habits out of the way, can improve his decision making, can help him with his footwork, dude's going to be fine.
He's got the talent. He's got the trajectory. Now looks like he's got the right coaching. We'll see what that jump looks like to sophomore season. And that's going to tell you, again, not that he won't continue to grow after that. He'll still be an underclassman, but that will tell you a lot about whether or not this is going to work or not.
Yeah. The jump next year, I feel like it'll be fair if you see these same mistakes. So then you can start to question
absolutely
what's this really going to look like?
The last thing I want to mention on Michigan, then let's talk about the college football playoff semifinals, is the Kyle Whittingham hire kind of happened while we were kind of heading into that holiday break there. And so I don't want to belabor the point because most of this information is pretty, I think everybody's pretty familiar at this point about, they seemed like they wanted DeBoer and then they want Dillingham and maybe they didn't want Dillingham and all that is out there, and that's fine. I want to talk about the hire of Kyle Whittingham for just a quick second. Mm-hmm. This is a great hire for Michigan. From a let's just talk cultural standpoint. From a cultural standpoint, to go from Sherrone, his personal life, his football coaching acumen, this is a great transition for Michigan. Kyle Whittingham is not going to put up with your nonsense. Mm-hmm. And again, you never know what skeletons are in people's closets. I get all that. From everything that I can see, from everything that, that anybody has said about Kyle Whittingham, he comes with no baggage.
Well, I mean, think about it. Dude was at Utah for 20-something years?
20 plus years.
No scandals that I can remember coming out. Nothing.
And it seems like a man of high moral character and all those things, which those things matter. Like, yes, the football matters. Yeah, you're not hiring a coach to be a nice guy, but let's be real. You are, and some may disagree with this, you are forming young men. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have a moral character, you're not going to be able to do that. Sherrone Moore should be example A. Okay. So Kyle Whittingham, from a cultural standpoint, seems like he's going to be a great fit for Michigan and exactly what these young men need. from a football standpoint, seems like a great fit for Michigan. He plays tough football. He runs the ball first. We talked about his usage of quarterbacks, his development of, not just him, but, his OC and his quarterback coaches and all this, the way that his guys develop and use quarterbacks, the way that they develop players and teams, the defensive coordinator, Jay Hill coming in, Jason Beck, the OC. This seems really, really solid for Michigan. And yes, you're going to have transition of players. And I saw Michigan had, even while we were recording this, 4-star corner that they had signed, Andre Clark, who's asking to be released. That's fine. Like this is some of what's going to happen. That's fine. The big thing that I also want to hit on was people have been criticizing, or at least questioning, like, well, he's kind of an older coach. Okay. I think he's 65, 66. Joey Galloway, the worst person that I know. I don't know him. And that's how bad he is. Is talking about like, I just don't understand this hire because it just seems like a Band-Aid and a bridge coach to the next one. I go, Joey, first of all, stop talking. Number two, people are criticizing Witt's age and it's a bridge coach. He is 18 months older than Curt Cignetti. Is Curt Cignetti a bridge coach for Indiana?
Hopefully.
No. Hopefully. Unfortunately, he's not. And even, dare I say, even if he was, okay. Have you seen Indiana? And I'm not saying that Witt's going to be Cignetti, but I'm trying to say the age thing is just a weird tangent to get on because even look at this. He's basically the same age as Cignetti. He's on a 5-year deal. Okay. Obviously he could coach longer than that. He could coach, I'd say probably no more than 10 years. Right. But let's say 5 to 10 years that he's at Michigan. Ryan Day's been a head coach at Ohio State for 7 years. If he left next year, is he a bridge coach? Obviously not. Harbaugh was at Michigan for 9. Was he a bridge coach? No. So if you get 5 to 10 years out of Witt, that feels pretty normal. Because unless you're Kirk Ferentz or Kyle Whittingham as of like a month ago, after, when you get into that 5-year range, two things tend to happen. For a lot of coaches, when you get in that let's say 5 to 10 year range, either you suck and you're fired, or you're really good and the NFL comes calling, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's not true for everybody, but let's say Michigan had hired Kenny Dillingham. Okay. Let's just say, I don't know that Michigan even wanted him and there's all conflicting reports, whatever. If Michigan hires Kenny Dillingham 5 years from now, if he's not any good, he's gone. If he's really good, he's probably coaching the Arizona Cardinals, right? Even so, even at Arizona State, 5 years from now, is it crazy to think that he's head coach of the Cards? No, that's not crazy at all. And so the idea that like, well, you're only going to get 5 years and I don't know, max of 10. Yeah, that's about the shelf life of a college football coach these days. That's all I have to say about that. It's a good hire.
Well, let's talk about some of these semifinal matchups.
There's more football.
There's so much more football.
Thursday and Friday. Don't miss it. Because if you're waiting for Saturday, boy, are you going to be disappointed.
You're going to be real sad. Let's start off, and I forget which one is first.
Just pick one.
Let's do Ole Miss, Miami first.
Fiesta Bowl on Thursday night, Miami and Ole Miss.
Let's do Miami versus Ole Miss.
By the way, these 4, unless you're a fan of a team that like got knocked out of the playoffs, I feel like if your team didn't make it, I'm like, whatever. Unless your team got knocked out of the playoffs, these 4 teams are phenomenal. These are great matchups.
I hate who I am as a person because I have to find a team that I just hate. Out of every group,
who would you pick out of this?
Oregon. I don't want Dan.
You're a fool.
You want to listen to that Dan Lanning press conference? No way.
I love Dan Lanning.
I do too, but not right now. I've got to pick a team that of all of them I want to see lose.
Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor on defense, across from Chambliss and Lacey on offense.
I know.
Oh my gosh. The Miami offense though, here's where, and we're not gonna break this down like we do Ohio State, Michigan, but that Miami offense, man, they look good. And I am just not sure about that Ole Miss defense. Ole Miss is a great story this year because watching Lane Kiffin try to like, good job guys, 2 more to go.
Can we talk about how cringe
on Twitter
that
is awful.
Can we talk about I'm so conflicted because
just posting the Trinidad and Tobago flag. I'm like, stop it.
Either of these teams in Miami or Ole Miss, I'm honestly fine with either advancing.
No, absolutely. I have no hatred.
I'm fine. Miami, to me, after beating Ohio State, there's the part of me that would love to lose to the national champion.
Sure.
So of course.
Hey, you did that in 2023. That was cool.
Ole Miss, I'm ignoring that. Ole Miss is a team that's just so fun to watch.
Yeah, man.
But there's a part of me that doesn't want to see Lane Kiffin enjoy any single moment of it. And so I hate to take that away from the kids, but he gets like a cut if they end up winning the whole thing.
But if he leaves Ole Miss to go chase the national title and they win while he's not there,
you've convinced me.
I feel like that's
You've
better.
You've convinced me.
I do think Miami can have success on Ole Miss's defense, because I do think that you're less big on the Miami offense than I am. I think the Miami offense is pretty dang good. Obviously, their calling card is their defense.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait to watch that Ole Miss offense go up against the Miami defense. I feel like Ole Miss is going to have trouble containing Miami's offense unless Beck turns into a pumpkin again. But he's not done that for a huge chunk of the year now. And so I don't expect that to happen. And as good as Ole Miss's offense is, that Miami defense is lethal, man.
See, I'm going to compare them again to another team, but I'm going to switch it slightly. This Miami team to me feels like Notre Dame of last season, where they've got a really good defense. Their offense has a couple of dudes. They got Jeremiah Love. They have Greathouse. On Miami, you've got Fletcher Jr., you have Malachi Toney, and you have a really good quarterback.
Malachi Toney's so much fun to watch.
He's so fun to watch. But
could he hit the portal? That would be cool.
But I think what makes this interesting is the trend that you've seen in college football recently. We've talked about it a handful of times. The team that brings back experience, that brings back veterans, has been the team that has always gone far. And you're seeing that with Miami team. I know they've got some young guys, but I mean, you got Reuben Bain, you have Carson Beck out there, you have Mark Fletcher. You've got an experienced group. I think that defense is going to be what keeps them in any game. And while I'm not as high on their offense as you, I do think they have enough talent that I think their defense is going to keep them in any game, and their offense is good enough that they can win them the game. And so for this one, I like Ole Miss. I think their offense is really explosive. I don't believe in their defense as much as I believe in Miami's defense. I think Reuben Bain's going to continue to get in the backfield and wreak havoc. I've got Miami winning this one 24-20.
It's not far off from where I'm at. I mean, I don't think anybody expects Ole Miss to score probably more than 20, 24 points somewhere in there, right? Because like as good as Trinidad Chambliss is, which by the way, shout out Ferris State. Like that's, you know, up in Michigan, Ferris State is just a phenomenal program. My goodness. So Trinidad Chambliss coming from Ferris State, because the D2 jump doesn't always work. Mm-hmm. And to come to Ole Miss, not be the starter, and then become the starter, and then have the year that he's had is incredible.
Well, and I wanted to point something out real quick about Miami that I need to fact check it, but we had Miami fans in our comment section talking about this. The Miami defense has not allowed more than 20 points in regulation all season long.
It's insane.
As good of a defense as what Ohio State had brought out all season long. So that's why I just can't pick Ole Miss to go above 20 because I've seen it.
And I agree with it. I have Ole Miss with 20 as well, because I think Chambliss is special, but I'm sorry, like I don't care how special you are when you've got Bain and Mesidor living in the backfield like that. I just don't see it.
And with Miami having the chance to go play
in Miami, they're playing because they play at Hard Rock. They're playing in their home stadium.
Yeah,
it'd be like Michigan, Ohio State, like getting to host a home game.
Okay, could you imagine though?
No.
Could you imagine a championship
Because here's
game?
the thing.
Oh, man.
Every one of these games should be on campus, period. I don't care about the Cotton Bowl. I don't care about the Orange Bowl. Play them on campus. If you put the national title at the Rose Bowl every year, that's the only exception. Anyway, I disrespected Miami last time by not picking them. I will not do that again. I'm learning and growing, people. Learning and growing.
New year, new us.
27-20. Give me Miami.
Okay, yeah.
And if that matchup's not enough for you, may I interest you in the Peach Bowl on Friday night between Indiana and Oregon? Like, I'm not trying to be Big Ten biased here, but maybe I am because we've won back-to-back national championships. And I'm just going to, spoiler alert, probably going to win a third.
This is spectacular. Imagine
I mentioned this to my wife, Lindsay, over the holiday. I said, imagine someone trying to explain to somebody coming out of a coma after 2023, where Miami went where Indiana went like 3-9 and going, yeah, wow. Indiana made the Rose Bowl and it was a blowout. And you would probably go, oh my goodness, that's incredible. Well, credit to them for at least making it. And you go, no. They beat Alabama in the Rose Bowl 38-3.
Just annihilated them.
Ignore for a second the so-called experts who tried to like gaslight us into thinking Alabama over Notre Dame was the thing that should have happened. Like, that's impressive. Mm-hmm. That's just flat out.
I don't think it would have mattered who they played.
And frankly, like, I was maybe not just as impressed because Indiana it's just a different story, but I was very impressed with the way that Oregon played Texas Tech. Mm-hmm. Like that is a really, really good defense. Well, and Oregon won Oregon, you think of like this lightning fast team and offense everywhere. Yeah. They won a slugfest and gave up no points to what is also a pretty good Texas Tech offense.
And I think what makes this interesting, we haven't even touched on this yet.
Like both teams earned their way in really impressive ways.
And this is just a larger realm of the whole college football playoffs, how the bracket is, the timing, the whole nine. And it's going to sound like an excuse. I don't mean it to be, but I do think it's an interesting conversation to be had. The record for teams that had a bye week in the playoffs right now is like what, 1-6 or something?
1-7.
1-7.
Yeah.
Indiana, the only team to overcome that.
It's impressive.
Last year, every single team lost. This year, every team but Indiana lost. Ohio State, and I don't know what the record was for the other teams. Ohio State hadn't played a game since like the beginning of December.
It had been a couple weeks. Yeah.
It had been like 20 something days since they had played football. To me, that's not the reason they lost.
No,
but when I see
it'd been longer for Miami.
And I still think I would have picked all the other teams to win that did win. Like I thought Alabama maybe could pull it off. I still probably would have picked Oregon over Texas Tech. I would have coin flipped for Georgia Ole Miss. I could have seen Ole Miss winning that. But I do think there needs to be a conversation to how you can fix something like that. Because regardless of the outcomes, I don't think it's ideal that these teams have to wait 3 weeks when their opponent's been off for like a week. Yeah. Something there needs to change. And that's the small part of a conversation that has numerous different holes in it.
There's no reason. And I think Dan Lanning even said there's no reason that
every Saturday in December should have college football.
We should be you could still be playing the national championship in the Rose Bowl on January 1st, the way God intended. Mm-hmm. There's my pitch. Josh Pate likes to talk about being the commissioner of college football. We could do this job too. So now we get the rematch. We get Indiana and Oregon. Indiana beat Oregon in their own building back in October, 30-20. Held the Ducks to just 13 offensive points. They gave up a pick 6 in that game. It was a phenomenal back and forth game. And there is so little separation between these teams. Like, it made me, as I was prepping for this, it made me think, like, when I was growing up, like, my mom would do this thing where she would take her fingers and she'd go, my patience, here's how much patience I have left. And she'd hold her fingers there and they're touching. And she goes, do you see any space in between there? She was a great mom. But that's this amount of separation that I'm seeing between Oregon and Indiana right now. There's no space in between there. None. It is so hard for me. Like, these are dynamic offenses, stout defenses, play each other close, mirror each other so well. It is so hard for me to pick against Indiana in this game. But there's a part of me that feels like everybody's a believer in Indiana right now.
Don't do it.
And there's a part of me that says Dan Lanning and Oregon go, that's fine.
Don't do it.
Oregon.
Don't do it. And that's coming from me. So you should honestly.
Listen,
you should think twice about that.
Who am I cheering for? I'm probably cheering for Indiana, if I'm being honest with you. But there's just something about Indiana being this underdog. And now suddenly they're kind of like the favorite. And I just go 24-21 Oregon. 24-21 Oregon on their way to a national title.
This is where I disagree with you.
The winner of this game is going to win it, by the way.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm hesitant, though. I think that there's a bigger gap than what you believe between these two teams.
Really?
I think the growth that Indiana has had, they obviously have been great all season, as their record shows. What I've seen from them in the Big Ten Championship. You can tell their record's
great because of the way it is.
Because of the way it is. From the Big Ten Championship till now, I know they've only played those two games. They've just looked completely dominant, and they have all season, but there's just been a different level to it. I thought after the Ohio State game, when they won the Big Ten championship, I thought Alabama would be able to beat them, but I thought even if they didn't beat them, they would test them. And Indiana just pounded them to the ground.
This is the second Rose Bowl in a row that has just not been any fun to watch. No, I take that back.
It was a blast last year.
Last year was not. This year was actually fun to watch because it's like you must be a sick individual to watch Indiana beat up on Alabama. It's like fever of 104. Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like this level of focus is what you see out of the guys that usually win it all.
Yeah.
Signetti is on a roll. You can tell they're laser focused. Even when they're up 38-3, he's over there screaming on the sidelines, still invested. That's the same mindset I saw Ryan Day have last year in every single one of their blowout wins. There's just a different tone to that program now. I can't pick against them. I've picked against them for too long.
Let's go. It's time.
I'm
not even mad.
I'm giving credit where credit is due. I said that I would after the Big Ten championship, and I'm going to stick with it. I think Indiana blows the doors off them. I think it's 27-14. I think you get Indiana versus Miami in the Natty, and I think that game, spoiler alert, I won't tell you who wins. I think it is going to be just a slugfest.
I will say it's not a bad, listen, it's not a bad pick at all. And again, my heart's pulling for Indiana here because how could you not? But even looking at since that win in Eugene, they've played 8 games. They've played 8 games since that win in Eugene. Here's how many points they've given up in 7 of those 8 games. Okay. So the one outlier was the 27-24 Penn State game. Okay. Here's outside of that, how many points they've given up. Michigan State, 13. UCLA, 6. Maryland, 10. Wisconsin, 7. Purdue, 3. Ohio State, 10. Alabama, 3.
Phenomenal.
That's pretty good, folks.
Some would say the stats are stats.
Thanks to the Ohio Science Institute, by the way, for sponsoring the College Football Playoff semifinal segment there. Phenomenal football. By the way, if you happen to listen or watch this on Monday, which we're recording Monday morning, FCS national titles tonight. Illinois State at Montana State.
Who's your pick? Montana State. Go. I'm assuming they're the Grizzlies.
No, that's Montana. You just offended all the Bobcat fans. Go Cats or something. And then Illinois State played Oklahoma and scored 3 points on them earlier this year.
Doesn't matter.
Illinois State's a great. By the way, just as an aside, if you've not watched the highlights of Illinois State upsetting North Dakota State in the weirdest comeback you'll ever see, go do yourself a favor and watch that before the game tonight. That's all. Follow us on social media or whatever. The Rivalry Podcast is part of the Varsity Network from Learfield and the River Podcast Network from River Radio Ministries.
New episodes out every Monday.
Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening right now, and follow on social media at RivalPod and RivalPod.com.
And if you like what you hear, share with a friend so they can listen too.